Hello and welcome to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. In this segment, we talk about critiquing other people's creative work. Can you put up some guardrails? Are there things we recommend that you do to make the person more receptive to your opinion? We can, and there are. Hope you enjoy. Hey, James.
Yes, Pat, I'm here.
Hi. You know,
Hi.
I'm glad you're here because I was thinking about something lately, and I wanted to ask you your experience of it. So I'm in a position to critique other creative workers in my field. I'm in a position to critique their stuff. You know, I'm in the field of actually critiquing writers' books. I'm a developmental editor most of the time, and so I also teach that. And in that teaching atmosphere, I see other people's work and I can critique it. And so I just want to, sometimes you see somebody's work and you're like, wow, that's fantastic. And sometimes you see somebody's work and you're like, there's a few things that they should really think about changing. And then you have to be able to tell them that in a way that doesn't kill their spirit, obviously. So I'm wondering, have you ever been in a position to critique another creative person's work?
Well, when you started talking, I was kind of thinking about that, and I've never written like a book review or an arts review or anything literally like that. But I've been in a lot of writers groups.
Yeah.
And absolutely. And then the other thing that I've done, when I was younger in high school, I took a lot of acting classes in school. And that could get really intense because people would pick apart every little movement and and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes people would get upset. So and feelings could get hurt and that kind of thing. But it's hard. It's hard to deliver a needed truth in a way that feels, supportive but heard too.
Yeah.
I think that's like the huge challenge, and doing it so that you don't feel like you've been mean and they don't feel like you've been mean, and and that kind of thing.
I mean,
Have you been in a writers group where you've had like that one participant who just is, terrible, like just hates everything, or more than happy to give somebody criticism?
I think I have been pretty lucky in my writers groups, and I think it's because of the mandate of the writers group always being very clear. We do constructive critiquing. And also the writers group I was in for about 15 years everybody was usually working on a novel, sometimes short pieces, but most of the time long pieces. And there's almost no useful critique to give 5 pages of a novel except questions and observations.
Right.
Not you're doing this wrong, because you don't know where the story's going. So you have to just work with what's on the page for the 5 pages that is being workshopped that day. And so I think I was lucky with critiquing. Also, I was lucky in my MFA program because that was my first real experience in a writer's workshop where your piece got looked at. And for 45 minutes, 10 other writers said what they thought. They'd read it ahead of time. And then they gave you their marked up copies. And I saw really, I'm going to say, masterful tact in those. There was sometimes somebody would say something and you're like, well, okay, you could put it that way, but in your head, obviously. But the part of the mandate, or the environment there, was you don't actually talk when you're getting critiqued. You let people say what they have to say. You don't have to react or respond, except to say thank you. They give you back their written up copy of your work, so it's got a lot of guardrails to it. There's the mentor prof for that group is in the room, and they're obviously very much engaged, and they are managing the emotional environment. So that was a master's program. It wasn't an undergrad program, I think. And it was a low residency master's program. So there was lots of adults in there. There was nobody that was 25 or 20. Yeah, there was people who were 25, but there was nobody who was like 19 and hadn't learned how to critique properly. That being said, I did decide that in that first semester of that program to ditch the third draft of the novel, I had to start over with a blank page
Oh,
on the
really?
fourth draft. And not because anybody said anything objectionable, just because they revealed the truth about what their reading experience was. And I saw that my own reading habits had junkified my work. So I had to get serious actually about what I was trying to do. Yeah.
You just said something that I think is really important to kind of emphasize,
What's that?
which is when critiquing, reveal the truth
Yeah.
of a project.
Of your reading experience. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think, it transcends, our writing domain into,
Oh,
whether
absolutely.
you're in a actors workshop or,
Hmm.
artist kind of thing. And really is, I think there's certainly some people who they come from a place of where everybody is a competitor, and so they have to kind of outcompete sometimes.
Oh,
And
yeah. Possibly.
so
Yeah.
it's more about pointing out problems as opposed to what you just said, which I think is really, really, really important, which is critiquing should be about revealing the truth,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And it's interesting because if you're whether you're critiquing another actor's performance or a musician, I would imagine, or
Mhm.
somebody's writing, what you're doing, you're wearing two hats, right? You're being the audience for them, and you're also kind of like a technical expert in some ways, depending on what your relationship with them is. You're at least a peer,
Mhm.
and so you can you can talk about their work technically, and you can talk about it in terms of its effect on you. And I think when I critique students' work, I'm talking about it from both places. I'm talking about it technically, and I'm also talking about it, but I'm an avatar for the writer or something. Like I'm a proxy for the writer receiving their
Well, the
critique.
reader.
No, for the writer, because what
Oh,
would
okay.
what we critique is writers' work. That's our job,
Right.
right? We're developmental
Mhm.
editors. So I'm critiquing the editor's feedback on the writer's work. I'm not critiquing their
Got
writing.
it. Got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
so I'm being the technical person going, this is what's missing in your feedback. These are the areas you might want to
Mhm.
strengthen in your craft knowledge and so on, so you can comment effectively on this, on
Right.
the writer's work. And then also, this is what I believe the impact on the writer will be from how you phrase things, from your tone of your critique. Because if it's really unconstructive, the writer, in my experience, um, they will be less likely to see your advice as advice. They will see it as criticism, when in fact,
Yeah.
really what you're doing is something different. You're not criticizing, you're giving
Mhm.
advice, right? You're giving feedback. So then I have to be able to critique somebody's thing from both perspectives. From a technical standpoint, are they covering the scope of work for this job in their own commentary? And
Right.
then the other aspect, what's the emotional impact on the person who's receiving their critique? So weirdly, critiquing critiques is different, I guess, from critiquing somebody's creative work.
Yeah. And, and so part of this too is, you as an editor, I know me as an editor, I have sort of like a default editor's voice.
Yeah,
And for me, I want to be very direct,
yeah,
in a way, and direct because if you try to be too indirect because you want to spare feelings or something like that, the meaning of what you're saying can get lost,
yeah,
or the importance of it. Like, this is a
hmm,
critical note right here. This
yeah,
is something that you need to fix. But at the same time, not direct to the point where it feels like, you're not, as we said, revealing a truth
yeah.
and just pointing out a flaw, if that makes
Well,
sense.
yeah, I mean, when I talk about tone, my advice to other editors is don't berate the writer and don't be
Mhm.
hostile to their creation. So you can say, I would do this differently. You can say all kinds of things. You can say why it doesn't work. You can be technically very direct about the effect on
Mhm.
the reader when you're critiquing another person's
Mhm.
editor's critique. Uh, it's completely possible to tell the truth without berating the writer for having made a mistake in how they wrote a book. Like
Mhm.
completely possible. It's almost perverse to berate a writer. I personally
Yeah.
don't advocate it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know I have received, criticisms that, one, I sent something to somebody, and we were talking about this earlier, and I think he was at a literary journal or something like that. And one of the comments that just stuck in my craw was he said it was filled with cliche and platitudes. And I can't remember specific. I think it may have even been like kind of a nonfiction piece about having cancer. And it's, it just, for whatever reason, it stuck in my craw because I was saying, there's certain things that are just universally true. The other piece of it too was it didn't feel like he was revealing anything to me. Like I wasn't getting anything from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, that's part of a good critique can be asking questions to clarify. So I'm going outside the idea that you're critiquing a critique, and let's just say I'm dealing directly with somebody's creative work. And maybe books are different. Lots of editors don't like asking questions because, the writer reads their questions 6 weeks later. You can't have a conversation about it. But the idea is to be curious about the choices the creative person has made and how they do something and why they did it that way. And, I see myself as, this is kind of, I can be very blunt, and I have been, and I have clients who are nervous about getting my feedback, and we've worked on more than one book together because they know I'm going to tell the truth of my experience, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's the only truth in the world because reading is subjective, but it's going to be my truth. And sometimes it can be hard to take because it's, it's questioning, is this the book you want to work on?
Right. Right. And it's hard, being the person being critiqued because
but there is
you have to be
critiques.
open.
There's critiques that can excite you to improve, and there are critiques that can kill your spirit. And I'm of the former camp. If my whole, part of the job is to see the truth and articulate it in a way that motivates the writer for revision. And sometimes it's 100% down to the studs rewrite, and that's a lot of work. And so if they're not on board, if they don't see the logic of my critique and the technical skill behind it, just going to go, oh, that was a waste of several grand, and walk away, walk away hurt.
I've been on that receiving end.
So have I.
You've worked with me and
oh, right. Oh, me.
Yeah, you. And we have lots of conversations about you behind your back, by the way. but no, I do like what you do. I mean, if there's a problem, you call it out. And it's like, I've never felt like, oh, that's a swipe.
Oh God, no.
And it's always like, when you see it, and then it's like it opens my eyes. Like, oh yeah, that's not working. And then, you've done stuff too, where it's, you've described something as being overwritten or doing too much. And this is the first time I'd ever heard that, which is just the simple comment as you've struck out, like half a paragraph or something, saying, let the reader have this thought. Right. And I think in every creative pursuit, you want to think about the audience and let the member of the audience, whatever it is, have that thought or have that space or have that moment to themselves.
Yeah.
Don't try and fill it with your voice always. And that's a big one, right? When you're, especially when you're improvising and playing leads, is you're not trying to fill the entire space with sound.
Yeah.
You're trying to create tension and emotion and those kinds of things. And so silence is as much of a tool as anything else. And so because you did that correctly, I feel, and it opens the mind to recognizing that, sometimes space is okay.
Yeah. I agree. Thank you. And also I'm thinking of, I agree with what you're saying, and I'm thinking of music. I like a song like that you feel this kind of longing to hear that part, that the voice is going to come, but it's not there yet. There's this pause, and it just fills you with this kind of longing to hear that voice again, or whatever the hook is on the music, and not literal hook, but you know what I mean. And it's just like without that room, that space to feel it, then you're not, it is like you're being buffeted by, it could be a great song, but there's not enough room in it, right? Not enough space in it. It's like having a relationship with somebody. You can have a relationship if you're always in each other's pockets. For me anyway, there's not enough space.
Yeah. Well, I like that, in each other's pockets. And, and so I think, this is where critique is so important, and
Yeah.
why we as creatives have to be really, really open to being critiqued, and accepting what people say, and vice versa, having that almost default voice
Yeah.
for how we speak to people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I tell my students who are editors that, it can take time to develop your editorial voice,
Mhm.
and it's not your speaking voice. It's like mine is a different version of my own speaking voice. It's not a fake voice. It's just
Mhm.
it's got more craft behind it. Like it's quite it's
Yeah.
quite it's logical and in to me
Mhm.
anyway.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's professional,
it's professional. That's right. And I find unprofessional critiques are the ones that get very personal without that balancing aspect of technical
Yeah.
craft information.
Yeah. Well, it's when you're talking, my brother's a doctor,
Right?
and he would, it's very interesting seeing him in his professional mode. And
Mm,
it's like a downshift, right?
cool.
And all of a sudden the skills, the brilliance, it all just comes out.
Wow.
And then we'll be talking about, some random thing, or the thing he's insecure about, or da 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 da, and he's back to being my little brother again, right?
Ah, yeah.
And so, I think there's that professionalism that, and even if you're not in an editing position, or, for me, like ghostwriting is also, you got to tell people that story you want to tell doesn't belong in this piece, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, but there's this creative to creative critiquing, and you see it really predominantly. I mean, open up any arts zine or anything like that, and
Right.
it's writers critiquing musicians, critiquing artists, critiquing actors, everything.
Yeah.
And there's definitely an importance to being able to share that as creatives, and have
Oh,
that reciprocal back and forth, right?
absolutely. Yeah. I'm just thinking right now of The Shining for some reason, the movie. And the book, actually, because I read the book long after I'd seen the movie a couple times, and I loved the movie until I read the book, and then I went, "Oh, this was a." I didn't like the choice that the director and Jack Nicholson made
Mm,
about how to portray that main character. I thought that they lost a lot of subtlety and depth,
mhm,
and
mhm.
but I'm not a professional, movie person, so I'll keep my mouth shut. It's okay. I'll say it to people I know who've read both the book and the movie, but otherwise my
Uh,
opinion is basically meaningless. It's out there already. So that's kind of an interesting
well,
um
me as a, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I don't mean to
well, I was
interrupt.
just gonna say that's an interesting aspect of, what you're talking about when you have an arts magazine or something and it's critiquing something that's already finished and out there. Like, what's
Right,
the mandate there? You're not in a position to help the person improve that piece of work. So
right.
what are you actually looking at?
Yeah, well, and it's probably why I have problem, I think there's probably zines who really get this right. But when you look at major media, in the US, New York Times book review is what used to be like almost a battleground where writers and editors and everybody used to go after each other with the reviews, in a way, and
Right?
there was like real emotion and conflict, and this is not good, and all these kinds of things. And now most of the reviews that you read don't really give you any insight as to whether I want to read that book or not. It's sort of like,
Yeah.
kind of, here's the plot, I thought it was great, here's a
Right.
nice kind of thing. And but you really don't get any opinion. and
Yeah.
and I
That's
think
really interesting.
maybe that's sort of a distinguishing piece of this, is that when you're critiquing a fellow creative, it's revealing truth and critique. It's not so much opinion, perhaps,
Mm,
where it's like, this doesn't match the art of the now, or whatever
yeah,
you
yeah.
want to say. But yeah, I mean, it seemed to be a little bit more alive, but also, you know maybe, I don't know, maybe that's okay, and we should have a little bit of that. Like, there should be a space where it gets a little bit more edgier or something like that. But again, it has to reveal the truth,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I think so, regardless of where it's at. So, um, okay, so this is a little bit off topic, but there's been a few occasions where I've had to talk, just for short periods about a certain thing. And sometimes like it's like giving a eulogy at a funeral or doing giving a reading at a,
Mhm.
at an open mic or whatever. And tell you what I always do now, which I first started doing back when I worked in the conference industry, was ask somebody to sit down in front of me, and I do it in front of them before I had to do it in front of anybody else, and
Mm.
and ask them to tell me the truth. Don't say it's good if you're bored. Like watch their body language. And I was very lucky to have the first person I ever asked that favor of, and I was in my 30s. He told me the truth, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, great, and ran away to fix it. Like I just
Mhm.
wanted the information. That's all I wanted, was because it wasn't a job. It wasn't my job to do that stuff. It was like not something I was getting paid for. I was just
Mhm.
wanted it to not be boring for the people that were in the audience, right? And I think that's another type of creative to creative critiquing, where this person had done a lot of speaking and had run events, big events, where they were the impresario and had to introduce acts and whatnot. And they knew what to look for, and they did me a big favor by telling me the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something exciting too when you actually offer a critique or some advice and it resonates,
Oh
and
God.
you can see that you've had a real positive effect on this person's thinking and how they're going to approach it.
Yeah.
And then it's also interesting, when as an editor, when you see them and you see the eyes light up and off they go, and
Yeah.
then they come back with something that's completely different than what you thought it was going to be, but it's great.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's really cool
Yeah.
how that happens. But uh, the before we close, I was thinking about my latest delusion.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're going on vacation to the same main town where John Hodgman has his summer home.
Oh, you're
And
a
I've
fan
had
of
this
John Hodgman.
delusion. Yeah, a huge fan of John Hodgman. And I've had this little delusion because he wrote two books. One was Vacation Land, which is kind of a collection of essays. The other was Medallion Status, which is another collection of essays. And Vacation Land came out the summer after my mom had her stroke. And it
Mm.
was like a 9-month period until she passed away. And that book became a very important book for me because he
Wow.
talks about his own mother dying and how it sort of broke his life in two, and it reflected what I was feeling. But it also had these stories that just the voice, it connected with me in a big. I read it twice during
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
And then he came out with Medallion Status, and I raced out and I got it, and it's good. I don't want to, downplay it, but the voice wasn't there. It wasn't the
Mm.
same. And so I've been dying to tell him that.
Oh, good. Oh, you're gonna buttonhole this guy, John Hodgman, and
So
tell him
yeah,
you
the
liked his
poor
first
guy.
book better.
Yeah.
Okay. Good luck with that.
Yeah, and then we're going to become good friends, right?
Oh,
That's
that's
that
part of your
this the
delusion.
delusion. There's a whole delusion that
Yeah, it's
goes,
delusional,
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
because he's
This
gonna
is
want to hear that from a total stranger.
oh yeah, he's just waiting.
Hey, give him
I'm
some
sure.
GU merch. Is he a podcaster too?
Yeah, he's Judge John Hodgman
You
for
got any merch?
I'm gonna bring a carload of merch.
Merch him up.
Yep. Monique is going in a separate car. I'm gonna have so much GU merch in the back.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
9,000 coasters. How big is this town?
Don't forget the stickers.
How about you just give him some merch and don't fucking tell him his second book sucked.
No, no, no. I got to live the dream.
All right. Okay. So, do we have any takeaway for people
Yeah, I think
about
the big
this?
one is reveal the truth with your criticism or
Yeah.
critique. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Reveal the
that's
truth. Keep it a balance if you can between actual sort of technical craft, like for example, oh, you should make eye contact if like for
mhm.
that person, who was listening to try making eye contact and can you speak up, and just technical stuff. or if it's written, or if it's music, there will be technical stuff that the person will help them make it a better performance. And then they are disposed to hear if you have a critique on the other stuff. Like, I wondered, I started to drift in this part.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And going across creative boundaries, I think all of this is true equally.
Yeah, you too.
It's really about helping somebody else get the most out of their creative capacity.
Yeah.
And then it's reciprocal, and hopefully they're giving that back to you.
Yeah, hopefully, and it has to be wanted. Don't critique somebody who doesn't want to be critiqued. Well, unless it's your job.
Like John Hodgman.
Exactly. Funny how
he's getting critiqued. He's going to get critiqued.
Good luck. Thanks so much for listening to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Hope you have a great creative week.